Here, I think Salo was doing it, but we didn't get that development of his character. And so this would be like if at the end, Mr. Miyagi f***ed Daniel. That's basically what happened here. You're supposed to be a mentor.
I mean, a little more sake, and who knows?
Daniel-san, take her down the pants.
Wow.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So, Gene, before we get to today's movie, I haven't had a chance to talk to you in the last week with the holidays and all. Just wanted to check in. How was your holidays? Anything special go on?
Oh yeah, we had the Pago Show, which is our first party as a married couple in the family, which oddly enough was the day after Thanksgiving. So I think that was technically our first party as a married couple, but whatever. It was absolutely fantastic. And just been watching the Shat movies, stocking them up for the holidays. And it was actually funny. Just the other day, Sarah was like, "Hey, while we're decorating, do you want to watch Elf?" I said, "Man, I've seen Elf so many fucking times. I've got the movie memorized backward and forward." And then today when I was looking at the schedule, I was like, "Oh shit. We got to watch Elf."
Yeah, perfect time to go. Mine was fairly uneventful. Went to New York, got to see my parents. We got some snow the first day. But leading up to it, Gene, we were supposed to record this a week earlier, but I had a little medical episode again. People out there, take care of your heart. So I had a little AFib episode. So, Gene, for the first time, I just wanted to let the listeners, I'm coming into this podcast with no PEDs. I am completely substance-free. No caffeine, no alcohol.
All right, it's going to be a tightrope walk.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Listen, I don't want to push you toward the edge like a rock star who needs to get their fix, but I got to tell you, I can tell on the episodes when you've been drinking and when you haven't.
Oh no, I totally agree.
And I don't want to be a negative influence or a destructive influence in your life, Big D. But you need that go-go juice.
Yo, I definitely do. I feel it when we're recording.
What about weed? Could you just smoke weed?
Yeah, it's hard with the child in the house because I'm always worried that I'm not going to be able to perform as a dad. But this week I've been caffeine free because they said, hey, until they're going to do this thing with a laser on my heart, and they said until then, no caffeine, no alcohol. So at Thanksgiving, Vanessa goes, "Why are you being such a dick?" And then she realized, she goes, "Oh my goodness, you've been like 4 days without caffeine." So now maybe I'm at that weak point where my head's starting to clear, the neurons are starting to fire again. We'll see.
Are you the type of person, I get this all the time, where people like me more if I'm injured or like drunk or in some way incapacitated? When I'm not at 100%, I think people like me better.
I don't know. I have a hard time with it. Like Vanessa coming to the hospital to drop off some stuff, I feel like an inconvenience. I kept apologizing. I don't like it. I apologized to my boss today because I was out a couple days.
Wow.
And she's like, "You were in the hospital." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I just don't like to be a burden." So we'll see how this goes. Luckily, I still have my Ritalin. But that was this morning. So I'm dragging a bit there, but we'll see. So people out there, bear with me. And I hope you had a great holiday weekend. And that'll get us to tonight's movie, Gene, which I watched with my mother for the second time. And she got about 45 minutes through and she said, "How on earth are you going to do a podcast talking about this?" And Gene, we've done movies before, sports films. We've done The Natural, The Little Giants, Bull Durham, White Men Can't Jump, Kingpin. We've done obscure sports like Over the Top. We did Gleaming the Cube. We did Escape from Victory or Escape to Victory, Rad. And then we've done apocalyptic films like the Mad Max series, Terminator, Escape from New York, Robo Jocks, which we love. But tonight we're going to combine those into some mega Shat film. We're gonna take the best of both worlds and fuse them together as a result of Jeff G asking us to commission the 1989 Australian-American post-apocalyptic film, The Blood of Heroes.
Well, visionary commissioner Jeff wrote in and said, "Hey, Shatters, I've been listening since late 2020 and have wanted to commission a film since day one. In 2021, we lost a great friend way too early. This commission is dedicated to B-Rock. After listening to the Lady Hawk episode, I decided it's finally time to bust out the best Rutger Hauer film for review, at least in my opinion, The Blood of Heroes. You may ask yourself, how does one decide which Rutger Hauer movie is the best? I'll tell you. Through my college years, I worked at a chain video store. Not Blockbuster, not Hollywood Video, but the one and only Video Update, formerly Movies. We had so much fun working at that store, and I still remember when we put the first DVD on the shelf, Blade. In the summer of '99, my roommate Tom and I also worked testing concrete on construction sites. It was hot and exhausting work in North Carolina. In July and August, we'd come home, drink beers, build puzzles, and watch movies. Having first seen The Blood of Heroes in my friend Daniel's basement in high school and loving it, it made an early appearance that summer. From there, Tom and I decided to watch every Rutger Hauer video we can get our hands on. We watched them all. Blade Runner, no comment on that Shat score. Blind Fury, Lady Hawk, The Osterman Weekend, Split Second, Surviving the Game, Crossroads, and more I'm probably blocking out. But it all comes back to The Blood of Heroes. What's not to love? A post-apocalyptic wasteland where the best and maybe only entertainment is a game where people beat the shit out of each other trying to get a dog skull on a stake while a drunk old man throws rocks at a round sheet of metal. I watched it recently and had a great time giving it the MST3K treatment with my friends Chris and Chuck. Our biggest laugh from the night was wondering if they measure all time in stones. I'm leaving work. I'll be home in 384 stones. Can you believe my husband only lasts 8 stones in bed? So, is it a zero-white movie? Hell no. Are y'all going to shat all over it? I hope so, but I also hope you have fun. Thanks, and keep the reviews coming. Jeff G.
And Jeff was kind enough. Gene, did you see the photo I attached to today's notes?
I did.
Jeff was kind enough to add in, and I almost think everyone should do this. He sent us a photo of his movie cave where he watches these films, and I'll describe it quickly. It is a nice, clean, light wood design. It's airy with a high roof, and he's got a poster of Eurotrip, The Blood of Heroes, and then some of those single sheets for like the classics, like E.T., Goonies. He's got some 80s stuff like Star Wars and Pac-Man. He's got a little R2-D2, some old retro gaming consoles, a Yoda candy dish, Gene. So, Jeff, thank you very much for what you did, and thank you for sharing your film location. It's going to be a good one.
The Blood of Heroes, released outside the United States as The Salute of the Jugger, is a 1989 post-apocalyptic film written and directed by David Webb Peoples, starring Rutger Hauer, Joan Chen, and Vincent D'Onofrio. The movie inspired the creation of the sport, Jugger. So, Big D, I'd never seen The Blood of Heroes, but I have seen Jugger. So I saw that first. I had no idea what was going on. The local league, the Arizona League, actually plays at Kiwanis Park, which is right next to my house. And I always thought those guys were doing SCA. I thought it was like a branch of the SCA. But thanks to Jeff, I now have the education to know that it's from this movie. And I feel so much more prepared to walk out there on the field and say, hey, guys, I want nothing to do with what you're doing.
You're like a Jugger pro. So you have that up on me. I had no idea anything about this film. Before Jeff commissioned it, I didn't even know it existed. And I seem to, in the back place of my mind, remember him writing in and being like, hey, would you guys do this? So we looked it up and we're like, post-apocalyptic, Rutger Hauer, yes, we have to do it. But now going back, like a year later, the poster, I assume this was Rutger Hauer in Vietnam.
Yep.
Because he looks like he's got the bandana. He's bloodied a bit. They look like soldiers. No, this is not Vietnam. Very different. Very different film.
I like that you conveniently left out the fact that Joan Chen is also right behind him, which might have led you to believe this is a Vietnam movie.
Well, if you know, I cropped the photo square on our calendar, so she's cut off. So all you see is what looks like a rifle with some rounds. But yeah, I had no idea this film existed. But then when I saw it, it was kind of low budget. It was apocalyptic. It was 80s action. This is something that has to be in the pantheon of Shat.
Before anyone writes in, we know Joan Chen is Chinese, by the way.
No, I think you were just making that comment because I'm generally culturally insensitive and I can't tell.
No, if I see a guy who looks like he's at war with a red bandana and there's an Asian person behind him, I assume it's a Vietnam movie. It has nothing to do with your cultural insensitivity,
Okay.
which is, I mean, it's not to invalidate your cultural insensitivity.
Well, I have a history of mixing up African-American actors. Looking at you, Mahershala Ali.
Let's hit the trailer.
From the screenwriter of Blade Runner comes The Blood of Heroes.
Jugger's coming! Jugger's coming!
Welcome to the future, where the game of Jugger is a way of life and death, where men and women will risk everything to win.
No league team has ever been beaten by a challenge.
Gar said we could play a team from the league.
You think we can do it?
Is it possible?
We're about the best.
What do you know about the league, boy?
And for those left standing on the surface of the earth,
You won't accept the challenge.
the real contest waits below.
I want a challenge.
Get out of the Red City.
The chance to play the best
They accepted the challenge!
and survive.
Break his legs, too, for good measure.
Stained with the blood of heroes.
I wanted to win.
Then win.
The Blood of Heroes. Starring Rutger Hauer of The Hitcher and Blade Runner. Joan Chen of The Last Emperor. And Vincent D'Onofrio of Full Metal Jacket. The film Newsday magazine called a dazzling action movie, one of the most original since Road Warrior. Blood makes grade, brutal, entertaining. The action scenes are numerous and exciting. The New York Post. The Blood of Heroes.
In a barren world, the only entertainment is a brutal sport known as the game, played by bands of roving teams known as Jugs, including Sallow, played by Rutger Hauer, Dog Boy, Mbulu, played by Delroy Lindo, Big Simber, played by Anna Katerina, and Young Gar, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. The Jugs make their living through the tribute paid by the town people if the visiting Jugs defeat the local team. The game involves two armored teams of 5 attempting to score by placing a dog skull on the opposing team's goalpost. One unarmed player, the Quick, runs with the skull while being protected by his or her teammates from attack by the opposing team. So Big D, normally when we see a sports movie, it's going to start off in one or two ways. It's like training, or you're going to get some really exciting sports action that gets you hooked, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be like some amazing high-flying daredevil shit or some brutality, and it captures your attention. You're in for the rest of the movie. The Blood of Heroes didn't quite get the memo on that. It kicks off by telling us, like in words, on screen about this brutal sport. And initially, Jugger looks like toned down American gladiators. Like occasionally there's curiously like a body carried off the field, but you don't really know why. Because all you're seeing is just people beating each other with giant Q-tips. But listeners, do not give up on this movie in the first 10 minutes. It's just saving the good stuff, for later. I would consider these opening matches, it's the film's attempt to show you just how shitty people in these dog towns are at Jugger. And later in the movie, you get to see what real Jugger is supposed to look like.
Well, so I can continue to set expectation. Gene, there's only 4 matches throughout the entire movie.
Fair.
So the opening one that comes up, yes, a lot of movies do these quick montages to show the action, but those are normally sports we know. Like you think of the Last Boy Scout when we're getting that Monday night. Are you ready for some football? And the guys are out there playing. And then the guy pulls the gun out of his waist. He shoots, ain't life a bitch? And you're like, wow, what's happening? But we know the sport. This is a made up sport. This is like in rollerball. If they just started us out with the guys putting on their skates and going out there and skating around, you'd be like, well, what am I looking at? Running Man, you got to get us up to speed. The world, what's going on? Death Race. Oh, these guys in cars. It looks like they're trying to kill each other. So here, I didn't know what was going on. And normally, I require enough information going forward that I can buy into a film. And I always complain, Karate Kid, I need to know about the brackets. How do the battles go? For some reason, either my standards are lower or I'm learning to appreciate movies a little bit different and not getting the full story. I'm not nitpicking as much. But The Bloody Hero starts out, and I'm intrigued.
All it took was a near-death experience, Big D.
It did. Maybe it was the caffeine that was caught. I'm drinking a nice cup here, a cup here of decaf, Gene. I've gotten to that point where I got my reading glasses and I got my cup of decaf. But you hint at it. This, even though it's an apocalyptic film, this is basically every underdog story, sports we've ever seen in the desert. The opening credit, it is a full 3-minute montage of gearing up. I don't know what they're gearing up for, but it looks exciting. You know, they're getting their outfits. You can tell this is like a ragtag bunch of juggers. They're going to overcome the odds. I'm thinking this is going to be the Sandlot or the Mighty Ducks, Little Giants in the desert in the apocalypse. We're going to have a member of the team, like in the Sandlot. What was his name? Benny the Jet or whatever his name was. You're going to have one person who's exceptional. The rest of them are kind of misfits. Something will happen. There'll be a challenge. They'll lose. They'll have to overcome. And then you realize, hey, the fat kid is actually strong. Or, hey, the girl is actually really, really fast or whatever. We're going to get something here. That's really not what happens here. And I think it's off to a questionable start, like you said.
And as you mentioned, Big D, everybody's got a role to play on this team, but there seems to be a lot of overlap and nobody's particularly good at what they do. For those who are uninitiated in Jugger, even if you watch the movie, you don't really get a great idea of the positions other than you've got some people that are trying to defend the Quick and the Quick is trying to score. But if you listen to the dialogue, you learn that there are 5 positions in the movie. There's the drive, the back charge, and the slash, who pretty much look like they're doing the same thing. And honestly, I can't tell the difference. Then you got the Quick, who is like the ball carrier or the skull carrier. And then the griffer or the chain wielder, right? Those are like the only ones that you can really tell apart is the griffer and the Quick. I couldn't tell the difference. They all just look like big people with, like I said, giant Q-tips. The griffer's pretty obvious. He's swinging the chain. The Quick doesn't get a weapon. They're pretty much fucked. And I had a lot of questions about who would want to be the Quick, because it seems to be this glorious position. But in the NFL, if you're the quarterback or the running back, yes, you are a target, but there's all sorts of glory as a reward. You're the jersey everybody's wearing. You're the name that becomes legendary. The Quick, they just get beat on, and their big reward is that they get to put a dog skull on a stick. And the impression I get is that their career is pretty short because they take most of the damage. Everybody's trying to hurt this person. I don't know why anyone want to do this. Like, you see Kidda, she wants to be the Quick for the team. Why would she want to do something else?
Well, I think your career is going to be short if you have young Gar swinging the fucking chains because he's incompetent. The team isn't that good. Poor dog boy, he's beaten to shit, and that's clear. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I wanted some voiceover narration.
Oh, no.
They could have explained the game because, people, you haven't seen this. There is no traditional offense or defense. They play both sides, and it gets a bit confusing because there's no coaching. It just seems like they're out there running around aimlessly. I wanted organized play. I'm screaming at Gandhi. Yes, Gandhi is the coach / doctor /
Indian guy
/ furniture carrier.
No, Indian guy.
Well, I'm just Indian guy. I thought, well, he does navigate for them, but I'm screaming, coordinate the moves. And until we get to the end, I just thought it wasn't part of it. But yes, the league teams, they actually do it. It seems like a mess.
Big D, you just blew my mind here because all of these slashes, back charges, and drives, if they had just actually let go of their giant Q-tip and just tackled the person in front of them.
You pin them.
Just jump on the guy, grab him.
Pin them. And again, people, this game goes to 1. So I question whether or not Americans, a post-apocalyptic America, Gene, they don't like soccer generally because it's low scoring. There's not a lot of action. This is the post-apocalyptic version of soccer. 1 goal wins it. 100 stones. 100 stones to my just general math is about 6 minutes, right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how drunk the old guy is.
How is this the biggest sport going around? Wouldn't you want something a little longer? Let's have it go multiple rounds.
It's so elaborate. That's the other part. It's so elaborate. You would think that in this post-apocalyptic world, I get that there's a dog skull. Maybe you just have 2 teams of people and you got to run the dog skull to the other end of the field.
Yeah,
put it in a bucket, whatever.
There's a lot of ways you could have gone with this, but it's in the beginning, it's not as exciting a sport as it could be, and they're trying their best as they're getting beaten the shit out of. But I really just had no idea what was going on.
Well, the 9 cities buried deep underground are home to affluent and powerful members of the aristocracy. Each city fields its own team of jugs in an organization known as the League. And its membership is maintained with a fresh stream of new players who are proven veterans. Members of the League live in luxury almost equal to that of the aristocrats. Sallow, the team leader, has played in the League of the 9 Cities before, but he was cast out because of his indiscretions with an overlord's lover. Kidda and Gar inspire Sallow to challenge the League and expunge his past.
So I know I just said a couple minutes ago that I don't need that much information, and that's generally true. I mean, that's about like the competition. I didn't need to know like the boundaries. I got enough of that. But there are questions I have about the world, because most of the apocalyptic films we watch, they follow some simple rules. They usually focus on a theme of like survival. It's dystopian. There's an oppressive society. People are isolated. People are desperate. The human nature is in an extreme situation. The environment is fucking destroyed. Here, they don't tell us really anything about that. I need the big world building questions, because in most of the apocalyptic films we see, other than Mad Max, which was gasoline, gas, water. You're in a wasteland. We're not going to fight for water. Water doesn't seem to be a problem. Nobody drinks it. I never see it. Don't know. It's not scarce commodity. Instead, they're trading like bolts and washers. How is that a currency? How are you using that as coin? Why is Gandhi carrying around an 8-drawer dresser on his back? It's an armoire, Gene. There's questions that I need to know. This is not comfortable, not functional. The world building is lacking a bit.
And this was a choice by the filmmakers. That's the thing. Like, so before anybody says, well, that's just the world and stop trying to rewrite the movie, that's not the point. The point is you decided to make this post-apocalyptic. Okay, cool. So what is this world? Tell us about this world. You didn't have to go that route. You could have just said there's a sport that develops, right? But you decided to go with post-apocalyptic. And yeah, Big D, it leads to a lot of other questions. Why are all the bands, they seem to be like Zydeco bands, or kind of like there's a lot of brass and woodwinds, which seems like an, odd choice. Like maybe just drums if we're in this post-apocalyptic world. But we don't really know where they are. We don't really know why any of this exists. And at this point in the movie, we learn also about this aristocracy. So it takes us from these dog towns to this underground city, the Red City. Now I'm figuring, okay, cool. They've got underground cities. This must be where all the resources are, that they're going to be lavish, comfortable, beautiful places. A lot like you see in the Hunger Games when you go to District 1, you're like, oh, not the whole world's all fucked up because all the good stuff is in District 1. Instead, no, these aristocrats, they live in this dark, wet hole, essentially. Everything's kind of gross. It makes no sense because I would argue the folks in the dog towns have it better. Food's a bit scarce, clearly, and they're trading nuts and bolts instead of money, but they have sunlight. They have fresh air. They seem to have some semblance of crops. As you mentioned, Big D, they don't seem to have a shortage of water. Why are these aristocrats all underground?
There's no oppression. We in Mad Max, we get the Humongous. What was his name?
Yeah, Humongous.
Yeah, Humongous, who's out there. People are in fear. Here, it just seems kind of like a cool place. Yeah. We're openly growing our crops. Everybody's hanging out. People are having a good time. There's nobody really seemed to be dying. There's no fear of radiation. Seems to be a good place.
Yeah, they're fucking each other. There's bands. You get to get drunk.
It seems
What's
like a
the
pretty good
problem?
place. It seems like a good place. So the only reason I'm going to try to like build into the reason that you would have these underground cities is to control security. Because if you had like your base above ground, maybe in a past time you'd be susceptible to marauders. It's hard to defend the walls. Like if you think some of the other movies, like even the first Mad Max, where the gasoline town, they're easily you could just jump a motorcycle over the walls. You're in, you're good. But the honest answer, Gene, come on, we know they didn't have the money.
Right.
You can't build these towns. They didn't have the budget or the time to build like Bartertown in Beyond Thunderdome or Capital City in Hunger Games. And for me, it's okay. It works. You know what? It's dark. It's mysterious. And the small things that they do in this underground world, Gene, works for me. Why is there a guy, an artist, surviving, doing chalk paintings on the floor? What is it with like those hammock hotels on the side of some 80-foot whatever? You climb a ladder and you're like that guy climbing El Cap on the side of a mountain with old people, kids, people having sex, shit falling off, people arguing. It's an interesting world. There's food kiosks. It's working for me.
I'm still baffled, though, as to why anyone's even working in this town. Because again, you could just go topside. I mean, maybe they're captive, I guess is the only explanation I could think of.
Yeah, and I think, if you ever see Snowpiercer?
That's the train one?
It's the train one.
Yeah.
So the train one, we get to see the cars. I would have liked, as they were going down, that you would get to see these levels. Kind of like Silo, like you were saying, Gene. Let us go through some tropical level. Let us go through something where we can see. And as you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the bottom, the darkest places, I think you would have done a better job to show that. Because the world they show of the aristocrats doesn't seem that much better.
Yeah, instead in this elevator scene, we get like, oh, it's a giant pizza oven.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a dog roasting. Wet concrete. It's basically Seattle.
But it is. They don't show us. So they leave it. We can't fault them because there wasn't anything bad in there. I just couldn't see really anything. But this movie revolves, Gene, like we said, about a new game that they've created. It revolves around the game in every way. And I wish they had taken a little more time to design a game that is exciting, a mechanics of the game. Yeah, the idea of it sounds great. Sounds exciting. It's going to be brutal. People are going to be fighting. It's going to be a visual, like, just thing to look at with blood, guts, tire masks, but outside of the quick, there's really not much going on in drama or excitement. It's like watching baseball. The guys in the outfield just standing there waiting for the ball to come. Here, you're focused on the quicks. The main players can get pinned down. And it made me think back when COVID first hit and things like ESPN, 24-hour sports were just dying for anything to put on TV. I fell in love with it and I discovered like Korean baseball. I was like, shit, Korean baseball. Let's watch this. Great cricket. I'm a cricket fan. And Gene, you must know. Do you know Kabaddi?
I don't know Kabaddi.
So Kabaddi
was that Live's first album?
No, listen. So Kabaddi, I think it originated in India, and it is a great game that they could have based Jugger on. So it's almost like you imagine tag. So the way they work it is and it's in India, it is like these huge, it's very popular. So the way it is, Gene, you have two teams broken up into 7 players. One team is on offense. They have a raider. He's like the quick. He's fast. He crosses into the other's area, and it's on something about the size of a racquetball court. If he can touch one member of the team and escape, that person's got to get off the field. If you can grab the raider, he is out of the game, and then you switch back and forth until nobody's left in the field.
I'm looking at Kabaddi right now, and you know what I noticed? It doesn't require equipment. This is a perfect post-apocalyptic game. You don't need equipment. You just need to draw out a box and just get some guys. Perfect.
Yes.
And that's kind of my point with this, is that simplify the sport, because the quick is doing all the interesting stuff. As you're watching this movie, the quicks are beating the shit out of each other. They're breaking each other's legs. They're biting each other. They're doing all the real damage. And so I started thinking, like, how do you simplify this game? You get rid of the dog skull, you get rid of, all the other guys, you get rid of the giant Q-tips. And then I realized, like, oh, basically what I want to watch is some MMA. And I started thinking, to just have the quicks beat the shit out of each other. It's much more entertaining. But beyond that, and I can't believe I'm saying this about a movie that's really supposed to be featuring brutality, but I felt like it needed to be more brutal. You mentioned Running Man earlier, right?
Yeah.
These aristocrats have complete control over this game, and you are playing it as a matter of improving your life to the point where you get something to eat and you get a place to sleep. People will kill for that. You hear multiple players talking about the fact that they smash people's brains and walk through blood in order to keep their jobs, in order to be successful and win at this thing. I wanted to see that, and I just don't feel like we did.
No, instead, Gene, we get the most pleasant display of sportsmanship. Right after, everybody's like hugging, shaking hands, like, hey, great match. Hey, good job. Hey, everybody. Oh, I didn't want to pin you down. Sorry about that. See you tomorrow. This is the post-apocalyptic world. I want, what's her name? Kitty?
Kidda.
I want Kidda, her parents' like little like bamboo farm to be burned to the ground, and she has to go join and become a quick to save her parents. I wanted some like urgency. Nobody gets killed. Yeah, we see that, Dog Boy has a career-ending knee injury, but other than that, everybody seems to walk away, maybe an eye down. They should have had backup players like red shirts, like they have in Star Trek, where those guys are going to die, where we see how dangerous it is. You don't want to get out there and get hit with a chain. Instead, here, everybody finishes, they go home, have drinks, and have sex.
Yeah, it's a movie. They're not really going to die.
That's
Kill some people.
Yes. Like Running Man. Running Man works because the contestants get killed.
Well, after having their challenge accepted, the team have to face an all-star lineup of the best in the league, with the league team having been told to focus on neutralizing Sallow and destroying... After having their challenge accepted, the team have to face against an all-star lineup of the best in the league, with the league team having been told to take Sallow's remaining eye. However, Kidda is able to hold her own against the league quick, and Big Kimber is able to hold on and survive despite severe injuries. So, Big D, you mentioned Gandhi having that giant armoire strapped to his back. Nobody has good equipment in this movie. I understand early in the movie that the Jugger's armor was makeshift, right? These are people going from Dogtown to Dogtown. They're gathering reeds and strapping them to their legs. They're taking any strap of leather they can find and using it to cover their head. They're basically just a step above scavengers. So, leather that barely covers body parts and sticks that are used to cover your bones, it makes sense. But then we get to the league. These players were told they're treated to silks and feasts, and they live on par with the aristocrats. Their armor also shit. Like the only thing they get that's better than the Juggers coming from outside is goggles. And goggles, don't get me wrong, that's a big step up because people lose eyes left and right. But I expected their shit to be way cooler.
Oh, fuck yeah. Shiny. Something that you can see, man, we have no chance against this team. You're going up against like the New York Yankees, and you are like some podunk little town. But it goes far beyond equipment, Gene. The league Juggers, if you think about it, they have every single advantage. They have limited quantities of food and water. In a world that's desolate, where people are fighting over scraps or sharing a pie down at the bazaar, that they're buying from one of the vendors, they have doctors. They don't have Gandhi drunk stitching up your eye in a dark, moldy basement. They have physicians. They have team coaches. They can handpick all the talent, Gene, from the lower leagues, the market towns, the dog towns. They have the pick of the litter. These guys are overpowered. This should be a story of David versus Goliath. There should be no way that you can beat a professional, well-staffed team. They're underwhelming, though, in every way. You said the outfits. They should be all matching. They should have a uniform that represents the city. I think that would be great. And without that, this is more David versus David. I mean, for God's sake, they don't have any backup players, right? So when we get an injury on Big Kimber, who comes in to fill but old ass fucking Gandhi? He's not even a player. He's not even really a coach. He's like a doctor.
And I get that, like you said, Big D, underdog story. And we're supposed to understand that Sallow and Kidda are just exceptionally, exceptionally good. That's two people, right? And Gonzo, who's supposed to be this monstrosity, like the all-star of all-stars, right? He's Lord Fancy Pants's best jug, right? Like you said, incredible sportsman, not the greatest at like fighting. He didn't seem that good. And again, like we're not trying to rewrite the movie. What we're saying is that Team Sallow came out essentially unscathed. nobody died, right? Kimber got injured, but nobody died. And that it wasn't even like close. Like they kicked the shit out of those guys. They walked the skull in, right? Like it's just a little much. And it took me out of the intensity of the movie because they'd built it up so much to be this incredible league when really, I mean, they were just amateurs at best. Having survived the first round, something no challenger team has ever done, the team must go into the second round with team manager old-ass Gandhi stepping in for the wounded Big Kimber. Gandhi is able to subdue one of the league players, and the team is able to beat the league team, something that has never happened. Sallow tells Kidda to walk to place the skull on the pole as the crowd cheers.
So, Gene, Shat the Movies, we have live streams where you could watch us edit the podcast. We sometimes do movie watches. We have fantasy sports leagues. We've done charity fundraisers. You just completed a great group fitness challenge where we had to walk 100 miles. We had to track our minutes and our activity. It was a great thing. I think we need to add something to this. I think we need to do Shat Sports Team. We need to add this to the list. And I was shocked to discover, long before you mentioned today that you've watched this in your neck of the woods, that Wasteland Jugger is alive and well in 2023. I had no idea that this existed. And I'm shocked that you've never participated, because if you think the things that you love saving animals, you love dogs, right? You love martial arts, you like combat sports, you like Renaissance festivals. This is a perfect combination, Gene. Why have we not put together a Shat Jugger team and go to compete somewhere?
At Wasteland?
No, Gene, in the U.S., I went and looked. Yes, Jugger is big in Germany, Austria, New Zealand, Ireland, England, Denmark, Spain, Sweden, Colombia, Costa Rica, the Netherlands, Latvia, Lithuania, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Romania, but it's also big in the U.S., Gene.
Those are also all countries where Rutger Hauer is the most famous actor.
I don't blame him. He's a handsome individual. But here in the U.S., Gene, we've got the CJL, which is the Colorado Juggers League. We've got also the Carolina Aggressive Juggers Association. We've got the USIL, which is the United States Jugger League. We've got Juggers Ohio, which was formed in 2010. We've got the Red Dirt Juggers in Oklahoma City. There's a lot of these out there, Gene. There's some international, like the big one is the International Juggers Council. But I think they're a bit more like in the LARPing arena. They've kind of drifted away from the Wasteland version of the game. But I think we could do it. And there's one that I want to bring to you because you like the Ren Festival thing. There is a group called the Shire Marsh of Grimsfell. And the Shire Marsh of Grimsfell, it's located in North Arkansas. It's a group.
Of course
it's a group of a society of creative individuals, an international organization, and they're dedicated to all aspects of the Middle Ages. So they have every fall, they have a competition where they will get juggers from around the country to compete in the Wasteland version of the game. And I looked into it, Gene. I pulled up the rules, the field of play. I think we would just need to get about 5 more people, and we could do it.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on that. One is I think we'd be much more likely with our audience to get like a Quidditch team together than a Jugger team. But also Arizona has Arizona Juggers, and there's also Phoenix Lights, which plays at Arizona State University, which is also just so Tempe has like 2 Jugger groups, I guess, or whatever. As I understand it, people don't really hang out and play this that long. Like they come along, they're like, "Oh, Jugger!" I think people watch the movie, they go play for a little while, and then they're out of it. But I thought you were saying we should go do it at Wasteland, which would be a thing too, because Wasteland they redo. I don't know if you're familiar with Wasteland, but it's kind of like imagine like Burning Man, but it's not like Burning Man, but they go out in the middle of the desert and do like it's a big communal thing, but it's like it's in the vein of the Mad Max universe, right? So yes, they got all the trucks and they have a Thunderdome, so they do Thunderdome, but they also I think do Jugger as well. I have a friend Bruce who goes and does it every year, and then one of Carrie's friends Wes, he's really big into Wasteland as well. I've never personally done it. I don't think I would like quote unquote those people. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to the next time you're in town, try to do Jugger. I've done live action Killer Queen, so I'm not above it.
When is this? I'm trying to find it. Wasteland, Arizona?
Wasteland is not in Arizona. I believe it's in California or Nevada.
Is it as douchey as Burning Man?
Oh yeah. No. No, it's not.
Oh my God, Gene, how have I never known this existed? People, this is Mad Max come to life.
Yeah,
Wasteland
it's in the
has
Mojave Desert.
It's got a gate. You remember Junkyard Wars? But you wouldn't know this. It was a show where people would go into the junkyard and you would get challenged to build something. This looks like Junkyard Wars on speed with people in thongs and leather and masks. This is the type of Burning Man I need.
Listen, if you ever want to go to Wasteland, I can definitely hook you up with the right people.
Oh, but you won't come with me?
Dude, I don't know if I can make it. First of all, the King Bee would never talk to me again.
Why?
But also, because look at it.
Come on, dude. Listen, listeners, if anybody wants to go to Wasteland, it looks like Gene's bailing on me. I would love to attend this.
I don't like being dirty.
No, we just go for a short day trip. We don't have to go stay out there the whole time.
Wasteland tourism?
Yes, we'll go out there. We'll wear a hockey mask. I'll go as humongous. Or
Yeah,
I could go as Master, and then I could go as Blaster, and then I just need a little guy on my shoulders.
I can be Tina Turner.
We don't need another hero, Gene.
Now, Big D, when I watched this movie, it was during the World Series. The Diamondbacks were in there, and it really hit home for me because, as you mentioned, not everybody's watching these matches when people from the dog towns come to challenge the league. We learned that no challenger prior to this has ever gone more than 26 stones against the league team. That's how strong the league team is. No one's ever gone more than 26 stones. And that explains why no locals are watching this challenge, because they just know it's going to end really early. But at the 60 stone point, we see the locals, they start to take notice. They start showing up to cheer. And I couldn't help but think that was such a great metaphor for Arizona sports. I don't know how things are in Florida, if people are diehards out there, but here in Arizona, all season long, it's like the Diamondbacks and the Suns don't exist. Then they make the playoffs, the ticket prices jump, you can't find any merch in the stores. And it's absolutely mind-blowing because I've lived in Chicago, I visited Philly, my family's from New York. I was brought up and experienced these sports cultures where people were just passionate for every game. Yankees fans, I don't love them. I don't love you guys. But the fact of the matter is that even when they're critical, and they could be highly critical of the team, they still show up. They still turn out. They're diehards, right? And we just don't have that here. Is it like that in Orlando?
Well, I think the problem we have in Florida is that very few people are from Florida. People are transplants. So everybody comes to Florida with their own original fandom, usually. So it's hard to get people to invest in a local team when 45 minutes down the road is the Rays. It's the worst stadium in baseball, but you're not going to get me invested in them as a Yankee fan.
Right.
And I think most Florida teams like the Magic struggle to draw. Most of the teams, except for the NFL or the Jaguars, they struggle to fill the stadium. But the other ones, Florida is transient. And I just give it to the people, though, Gene, in this dark, dank underworld that in the 60 stones, that's 2 minutes, Gene. So in 2 minutes, roughly, to throw 60 stones, let's say it's 1 a second, right? The word spread. Hey, let's go. Everybody got off their bunks. They hustled down, unless you are modifying the time of throwing the stones. And we're in a desert, Gene. Why couldn't we have a giant hourglass? Wouldn't that have been dramatic?
Fuck a giant hourglass. Why couldn't the guy who does the stones for the league be a professional looking dude that throws stones? Even that guy is a drunk old man.
Or you have a stone mechanism. Like the stones fall, you just have to turn a crank. Because you could stack the deck. If I was throwing my own stones, I would throw them as fast as I could.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with this league is the bad guys can't even be bad enough to cheat. Hey, throw the stones slower, or throw them faster, whatever, adjust the clock. Yeah, it is a clock that is primed for bribery. Why is this not happening?
Now, as you like vampires and you like some of the darker arts, did you get a little vampire hint here from some of the upper class with the tasting of the blood and smearing of the Jugger blood on their face? There seemed to be a sexual component.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the one person, but they did seem vampiric in their paleness and their kind of affluent and fluty ways. But at the same time, I think it's a fine line between vampirism and aristocracy. So who knows? Big D, this movie ends differently depending on where you watched it. So if you watched it internationally versus in the US, but the version that I watched, it ends with the whole point of this game, it wasn't for Sallow to like get his career back or anything like that, or get revenge on the aristocracy or free the people or anything grand like that. The whole idea was that they wanted to get Kidda into the league, to get the league to notice her. And young Gar gets the notice too, but that's kind of, you see that they start to go talk to her, they go talk to him. It seems that they're getting into the league, that they've got the attention of the league, and Sallow is just going to be Sallow. So Kidda ends up being kind of the focal point of this movie. And that kind of bothered me because she's cool, but she's almost too cool. Like, she's this apocalyptic nerd dream girl. Like, if you took a nerd and you're like, hey, what do you want in a woman? Like, I want her to be into sports and violence, but she's got to have a soft side, and she's not a lesbian. She dreams about wearing silk and wants to fuck dudes. She's horny for this emotionally unavailable, ugly older man who's missing an eye, but she'll also just fuck anybody because it's fun. And above all else, she's a really good sport. Like, Sallow fucking kicks her while she's down in one of the opening scenes, and she goes home and she tells her mom, the man from the league kicked me.
Yes.
And then she ends up fucking him. The dude that kicked her, right? I wonder with her, with what we've seen, like, do you imagine she has a glorious future in the league, or do you think that it's short-lived? Do you have a prediction for what happens with Kidda?
It's easy. They said that they like women with no scars, with smooth skin.
Yeah.
She doesn't wear a mask. She doesn't wear a face guard. It's going to take somebody in the league is going to catch her in the mouth with one of those Q-tips. She's going to be far less attractive, and I don't think she'll be a fan favorite.
Come to think of it, I can't believe she's having sex with Gar and also with Sallow. What if you get pregnant? Your career's fucked. You think they're going to give you like you're going to put you on IR?
No, I think you just take care of it. I think they take care of it. Maybe again, fanfic. Maybe there's a problem with reproduction in this world. Possibly. But
no, there's children everywhere.
Oh, that is true. That is true. We hear them being made.
Yeah, they just have a guy throw rocks at you.
We hear that. Yeah, and I think there's so many opportunities where this movie, with a little massaging, and I hate to just do the rewrites, but I think what they were trying to do here, Gene, is that in the beginning we see that Sallow cares about nothing but himself. He used to be in the league. He is the star. When Dog Boy gets hurt, just leaves him out to die essentially in the desert. But along the way, he actually starts to care. As Kidda follows them around, she proves herself. He then decides to do what he didn't want to do, to go down there and face his past, get her a spot, and then he walks away. It's much like, I think, Max in Fury Road. That Max, you see him down there standing in the crowd, he walks away.
Right.
Here, I think Sallow was doing it, but we didn't get that development of his character. And so this would be like if at the end, Mr. Miyagi fucked Daniel. That's basically what happened here. You're supposed to be a mentor.
I mean, a little more sake, and who knows?
Daniel-san, take her down the pants. Oh.
Wow. Dude, following up on Young Guns 2, man, you are the master of accents these days.
I fix your knee, Daniel-san.
Jesus Christ. No caffeine, no alcohol. Now's the time of the podcast where we give our Shat score for The Blood of Heroes. Our Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is having all your opponents pinned to the ground so you can slowly walk to put the dog skull on the spike. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It is carrying all the team's gear in a world without duffel bags. I'll go first. This movie is not particularly good, but what it is fairly swift and it's easy to digest. We're left with a lot of questions, but what we do know is enough to go on. The latter Jugger scenes are oddly entertaining, particularly Joan Chen's action sequences. She is really good in this movie. Rutger Hauer, he's Rutger Hauer. He once again does a terrific job playing a guy in the wet dark. I'm going to say this is just a little bit below average and give it 2 3/4 wipes.
So, Gene, I'm going to go a little worse than you. I think it's 3 wipes. But saying that, this movie has no business being a 3-wipe movie. The budget, the cast, everything. You can sense that it was running on duct tape, baling wire. It's on a shoestring. But once they get into the league, into the city, it is, like you said, it's oddly entertaining. I would have liked, it's a quick movie. I would have wanted those 10 minutes back to see the post-battle, like what happens there. in the post life. I think that would have helped finish it. But it is a quick movie. I wouldn't, again, it's weird because I'm saying, Gene, I wouldn't recommend this to somebody.
No.
Like my mother said, how are you going to talk about this? I wouldn't recommend it. But having watched it, it was surprisingly entertaining.
It's one of the few movies I've watched where I just wish that things had been more unfair and more awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like too kind. And that's weird to say for a post-apocalyptic film where people are losing eyeballs, but it just seemed too kind.
Yeah, you need to have some ultimate doom waiting around the corner.
Yeah.
Whether it's murder, whether it's rape, whether it's something. Not that I don't want to see the rape, but have there be stakes that you have to compete. This is life or death. Because otherwise it seemed more like the world was nice. The world was okay, and this was a recreational sport, and they were trying to go pro. But thank you very much, Jeff, for having us watch this.
All right. With 2 3/4 wipes from me and 3 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.875 wipes for The Blood of Heroes.
So, Gene, with a wipe score of 2.875, that now ties this with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Flatliners, Needful Things, So I Married an Axe Murderer, and Blue Velvet.
That's not bad. It's just slightly below average.
It is. And I think, though, there is some nostalgia that we came into this with an open mind. I don't think most people would.
Yeah, maybe we just don't understand because we don't play Jugger.
I think we could fix that, Gene.
Sure.
Come on. Come in, baby. Come to Wasteland with me.
Okay, we'll get Sarah as Big Kimber. You can be Sallow. Does that make me the Quick?
Ooh. I think you'd be the Quick. You're agile.
I'm so slow, though.
Trust me, speed isn't here. You got to be able to take a punch. I think you could be able to to move people. Let's make it happen.
We'll see. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And speaking of slightly below average, our cock correspondent, Lawrence S., is back this week with a voicemail about Highlander 2.
Gene, this is Lawrence S. once again. Gene, I have to say, you must have been on drugs yourself, like the actors in The Quickening, because 2 wipes for that movie is you are 5 wipes because of your 2 wipe score.
Wow.
You should be ashamed of yourself, as I like to say. This is an absolute travesty. I cannot believe this movie is a 7 wiper, like Big D said. Any version of this movie. It is absolutely unwatchable. I have watched it. I watched it about, 4 years ago or something like that, because some other podcast was doing a podcast on it that actually does bad movies. And
so do we.
This movie, I would never watch it ever again. Even watching it with your theory in mind about these actors just going rogue and all this other business. Because it's still just absolutely terrible. Krull is the Godfather compared to this. And you should be ashamed of yourself once again. I can't say that enough. So, anyway. Love you guys. Still going to listen. But, Gene, you're in trouble. Love you guys. All right. Talk to you. Bye.
What the hell was he doing? He sounded like he was coding in Hackers. Like
I thought he was doing like a Rubik's Cube.
I thought he was typing.
Yeah.
I don't know
when
what
you hear typing and then someone says you're in trouble and then laughs maniacally. It's never a good sign. But Lawrence, this is the right approach. Tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. Keep listening. That's what's important. So as long as we're on the same page here, I can totally appreciate that. Listen, I found an inexplicable joy in Highlander 2, maybe in the same way that Jeff found an inexplicable joy in The Blood of Heroes. And I tried my best to express what that joy was. But I freely admit it's not for everybody. I get so excited when there's a dog shit movie that I just find some vein to feed at that just brings me a happiness.
And to defend Eugene, it is not your theory of what was going on behind the scenes. That shit happened. The stuntman showing up high on cocaine in sweatpants with his penis out, saying that they were coming to get him, or the drugs on set. This was a hostage tape. This was a hostage tape disguised as a film.
It's a 2-wipe hostage tape.
It's the best hostage tape we've ever seen.
All right. Well, Highlander 2 clearly struck a nerve because we also got a voicemail from Adam from Philly on the same topic.
Hey, guys. It's Adam from Philly. Just want to apologize for my last voicemail. I totally, got on Gene's case. My bad, dude. We're all entitled to our own opinions. So that was my fault. But I had to drop you guys a line because I just finished the Highlander 2, The Quickening. I'm going to be honest. I've never seen Highlander 2. And I never had any intentions of seeing Highlander 2 because everybody said it was a, steaming piece of shit. However, you guys and you digging into like the making of and the Argentinian Coke and the stunt man and Michael Ironside stories and like the drinking, like I have a whole new perspective on it. So I'm really looking forward to digging into it. And that would not have happened without you guys. So I am in the near future preparing to take 2 hours of my life and watch Highlander 2, The Quickening because of you, Gene, and Big D. So I either want to thank you or give you a big old fuck you. I'll figure that out later. But honestly, I'm looking forward to it and like having myself in that different frame of mind to watch it. I can't wait. So, just wanted to drop you a line and just say, again, thank you guys for all you do. Your podcast is absolutely fucking hilarious. And, I just thought Highlander 2 was such a high spot. So, like, you guys rule. Again, Adam from Philly. Love you guys. Keep it up.
Gene, I'm simultaneously happy and also racked with guilt about him spending 2 hours.
Was Adam talking to us while Siri was talking to him? Is that what was going on there?
I think Siri, mistook one of his statements as he was talking to her.
Adam, please keep calling in because you have this great scream. This is now 2 voicemails in a row. Aside from being a prolific commissioner, just that scream that you do when you get frustrated. Speaking of horrible things that bring me joy, it is a treasure. It is a treasure. And finally, we have a voicemail from Chris from Germany, who's urgently been trying to get a hold of us about a movie that he would like us to do, Run Lola Run.
Hi, this is Chris from Germany. I sent you guys an email, actually a couple of emails, I think, because I wanted to commission the movie Run Lola Run. And I tried to get in touch with you guys like a week or 2 ago. And I haven't heard back, so maybe you could let me know if y'all will accept that commission. And I already donated $200 via PayPal.
Oh.
So that would be really, really awesome if you could do that movie for me and add it to the calendar. Thank you guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
So I recently told the rest of my family that the reason that I, as a Persian, have come off of Persian Standard Time and found myself actually early to things and getting things done way ahead of time, it's Sarah's influence on me. And I don't know if that has anything to do with her German background, but I, for about a decade now, have just been increasingly fall in love with the Germans. And this is such a cool approach, which is like, hey, you fucks, I wrote you. And by the way, this voicemail is from several weeks ago. So Chris, I mean, he wasted no time. He was like, listen, I wrote you again. You didn't reply. I'm going to send you the money. And I'm going to tell you what I want to see. And now the ball's in your court, Shat The Movies. And I got to tell you, Chris, that we are not the timeliest people, as you might know, because if you're listening to this episode, you know it's months after your call. And I apologize, but I am a big fan of Run Lola Run. I think it's a fantastic movie. Big D, it's only like 80 minutes long. It's so good.
Gene, don't apologize, because guess what? That shit's already on the schedule, motherfucker. Boom. Was ist los? Achtung. You better watch out, because this is on the schedule. This looks like a good one, Gene. The poster says Fast Cash, Crazy Fate, and True Love. It looks like a mess. It looks great. Looks really
Soundtrack
good.
is fantastic, and I believe it's filmed kind of like 24, where it's in real time. So the movie happens in 80 minutes, and the action in the movie is 80 minutes long. So
yeah, it looks great.
Pretty good. All right, Chris, that is a go. Thank you so much. We'll get it on the calendar. And speaking of the calendar, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, a female gunfighter returns to a frontier town where a dueling tournament is being held, which she enters in an effort to avenge her father's death. The screenplay was written by Simon Moore, but includes contributions from Josh Whedon, commissioned by Edwin C. Came out in 95, and there's always room for another Western, Gene. That's my way of thinking. Always.
Have you watched it yet?
No, I'm going to watch it right now. So thank you,
think
Edwin.
Very differently.
Oh, no. Really?
I don't know if it's a Big D movie. I'll
Why is it too highbrow?
It's very girl power.
I like girl bosses. Come on, what are you talking about?
Sure.
As long as she
now
earns,
you put yourself in a box, which is great because if you don't like the movie, I'm just going to say
as long as she deserves being a girl boss. I want her to be a badass girl boss. Show me why she's earned that title.
It's not quite Basic Instinct and it's not quite Unforgiven, but it does have Sharon Stone and it is a Western.
Yeah, I'm coming into it with an open mind.
All right. Well, thank you, Edwin, for commissioning our upcoming movie. Thank you, Jeff, for commissioning The Blood of Heroes. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
This is my town! If you live to see the dawn, it's because I allow it. I decide who lives or who dies.
In a town called Redemption, death is a way of life. Some fight for money. Some fight for glory. But one stranger has come here, looking for something else.
I now declare the quick draw competition open. Anybody can challenge anybody.
Sign me up.
Sure must want to die young, miss.
She can play their game.
Want to play poker with me, little lady?
Looks like you're having a pretty good time playing with yourself.
She can beat their odds.
Did you ever kill anyone?
Sure.
I don't think you have.
But there's one thing she can't do.
Why are you really here? You're no gunfighter.
Forget the past.
String him up. Put him on a chair.
Some people deserve to die.
TriStar Pictures presents Sharon Stone.
I'm gonna kill you if I have to ride all the way to hell to do it.
Gene Hackman.
There's nothing on this earth that frightens me now. Nothing.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hey, my face.
In a film by Sam Raimi. The Quick and the Dead. In this town, you're either one or the other.